Hello, lovelies. Thank you for joining me here today on this webinar, How to Want Sex Again. This is for all the moms out there who know they still got it. That girl is still there. Or maybe you know that you can find her for the first time, but you can't find her on your own. So we're going to talk about why that's normal and how we're going to fix that little problem. My name is Eva Ball, and I'm the founder of About Pleasure Intimacy Coaching, and I'm psyched to be here with you today. So let's get into it. Okay. Today I'm going to talk about having a sleeping sex drive and why A, that's super normal and you're not alone, and B, there's nothing wrong with you. Pretty much everybody I talk to thinks like, oh my God, everybody else is having better and more sex than I'm having, and there's something wrong with me. And let me just tell you, most of them aren't, but you can be different, okay? Because then I'm going to share 5 steps you can take and like leave this presentation with to help get yourself revved up again, because this is really an inside job. We tend to look at it as like a couples thing, but really, whether or not you have a partner, this is something you can do for yourself. Okay, so this is for moms who are tired of feeling like just a mom. You know, maybe you carried your child, or maybe you breastfed your child, or maybe you just have a child that you're parenting and they won't give you any space. And oh my gosh, it can feel hard to feel like your body is yours again, especially with all the changes that can happen with parenting and with aging. So you want to feel like a sexy ass, strong woman again, right? If that's you, this is for you. This is also for people who maybe used to have sex as a priority, or want to experience sex as a priority for the first time, but aren't sure how to do that on their own. Again, that's totally, totally normal. What's not normal is taking action to address it. So kudos to you, girl, for being on that. And finally, this is for people who are in a safe relationship. And by that, I mean are not currently in an abusive, intimate relationship. I include this because unfortunate reality is that abusive, intimate partnerships are pretty normal. They are never your fault. You have options on how you want to address them. It's up to you, and help is available. So please use this number, 800-799-7233, if you think that might apply to you and you want to get yourself some help. Okay, so does this sound like you? It's been so long since sex has been a part of my life. I don't even know how to get started again. Oh my gosh, I hear this all the time. I hear things like, oh, me and my partner hardly even touch. The thought of having sex with them seems inconceivable, right? Oh, you are not alone. In fact, this is so common. We surveyed over 200 moms and found that 67% of them report that their sex life is generally less exciting since becoming a parent. So, okay, that's normal. And 76% agree that having more and better sex would improve their lives. This sounds like a gimme, but what the point is that you are in the majority, that things that you might think are like, I don't know, not ideal or wrong with you, heaven forbid, aren't wrong with you at all. They're just totally normal problems that have totally available solutions. The problem is people don't ask. And that could be a whole other webinar about why people don't ask, but no shame and no blame on them. Okay. One of the reasons people don't ask is because it is normalized for sex to be very pleasurable for people with penises, primarily cis heterosexual men. It's normalized that penis and vagina between cis heterosexual man and a cis heterosexual woman is what sex is, right? That's normal. And unfortunately, or I'm sorry, I want to be clear. That's what's been normalized in our culture, that sex equals penis and vagina. It's also been normalized in our culture that men have orgasms and pleasure from sex. And it's also normalized that sex isn't that pleasurable for women, right? And I think this relates to a lot of things, and again, could be its own webinar. But one of the things that's really easy to address and fix for our own selves is how we define sex. So I'm just going to throw out for your consideration that one way we can fill this pleasure gap, this was just like begging for an innuendo, but I'll let you do that for yourselves. One way to fill this pleasure gap is to redefine sex for ourselves. I suggest instead of thinking of sex as meaning penis and vagina, if that's what it has meant to you, which again, that's what it means to most of us, it's very normal, to instead make a decision for yourself and say, no, I'm redefining sex for me to mean sexy times, right? Or a sexual experience. So sex for me could be making out with a partner and like rubbing up against their leg and, you know, having a good old time. So I invite you to consider that. And also consider that while we're taught that pleasure should be rare, that's actually complete and utter bullshit. And for most of us, if not all of us, pleasure is available, okay? Pleasure is available. Even if we've been wounded in our past, pleasure is available. So in short, is there something wrong with you? Fuck no, there is nothing wrong with you. When I start singing, I know it's time for me to take a deep breath. I'm sorry. I get very excited when I talk about this stuff. Whew, breathing. Okay. The good news is the pleasure gap can be filled. And again, I'm not talking about by penis and vagina, just to be clear, although that can be great. I'm not dissing penis and vagina at all. So just to be clear about that. We can all unlearn problematic lessons we've been taught about sex. And you can learn to crave and enjoy sex again in your life. And in a minute, I'm going to go over 5 fairly concrete ways you can do that for yourself. But first, I want to talk a little bit about me. I'm not just a voice coming over the internet. I'm a real person. That's me, laying in my hammock in my backyard. I'm the mother of 2 beautiful humans. I have a master's in social work, and I've been practicing in the realm of sexual health and sexual violence for over a decade ago I began, including some work I'm very proud of with Northwestern University. I've learned along the way that pretty much everyone I talk to thinks they've somehow done it wrong, or they've messed up, or somehow it's their problem that their sex life isn't just like off the chain. But what I've learned in doing this work is that most people have a ton in common as everyone else I talk to, right? That a lot of this comes down to lessons we've learned and choosing to learn some new lessons that feel really good to us. So I started About Pleasure to bring our experiences together, to reduce shame around sexuality, because shame around sexuality is such a killer. Oh, it's such a killer. And I think we all are impacted by it in one way or another. And by reducing shame, we can therefore increase pleasure in our lives. And what a beautiful goal, especially right now in times that feel pretty dark in our country, in my opinion. And maybe raising the joy quotient a little bit is a step in the right direction, in addition to being active and speaking up in our society. Okay, off my soapbox. 5 ways to want sex again. Here we go. Okay, I'm singing. Thank you for bearing with me. I just get really excited. Okay, step 1. I want you to decide that you and only you are in control of your pleasure. I can't tell you how often I hear things like, I want this, but my partner, blah, 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 right? It is not up to your partner to bring you pleasure. If they do, that's flippin' awesome. That's great. Let's keep encouraging that. However, if you're not experiencing sexual pleasure, that's something that they can't change. Only you can change that for yourself. And it's common around sexuality, or pretty much anything, to blame external factors for not getting what you want. It's really easy to say, oh, this happened to me because I'm a victim of sexual assault, or I can't have pleasure because my partner's bad at going down on me, or I can't have pleasure because we haven't had sex since the baby came and I honestly don't even know how to start now. And I'm here to say that while it is not your fault that you slipped into these mental habits are not serving you if pleasure is your goal. So I want to say this to you, especially if you've literally been victimized, and or if you've struggled with mental health, and or if you are a typical human person. It is up to you to decide that pleasure is a priority and to take control of feeling good. Because if you don't, nobody else will. Two, I want you to get curious about pleasure. And let me be clear that I'm not necessarily talking about sexual pleasure, although that's certainly included. I'm talking about pleasure of any kind. And perhaps starting with sexual pleasure feels far away. That's okay. It's far away for a lot of people. So instead of thinking about sexual pleasure, invite yourself to think about what you do every day already, habits or patterns you already have, and ask yourself, which of these do I do on autopilot? What do I tune out of? When do I go in my head and out of my body? I have a beloved colleague who practices mindful toothbrushing. And when she's brushing her teeth, she just takes that 2-minute period to really tune into the sensations in her mouth, right? And as far as I know, that's not a sexual turn on. It's just like a really lovely experience to be in touch with what's going on in her body, that part of her body, be awake for it, be alive for it. And she reports that she really looks forward to brushing her teeth. Now, I don't know about you. I brush my teeth. It's a habit. It's a pattern, but I wouldn't say I really enjoy it. Well, maybe I can if I choose to tune in. That's just one example. But ask yourself what you could possibly take pleasure in if you decided to tune in. I mean, maybe it's the feeling of slipping on your pants in the morning, the feeling of your pants like brushing up against your thighs as you put them on. Can that feel good to you? Or just washing your hands in warm water. The sensation of warm water on your skin can be so delicious if you decide to pause and really let yourself feel it. The truth is, we all do lots of yummy things every day. And an important part of experiencing them as yummy or pleasurable is to be curious about what they are. And I challenge you, if you get curious, I trust that you will find things in your life to take pleasure in that are already there, and you don't even have to change a thing except for get present for it. 3, notice and name turn-ons. Okay, so what makes you shift in your seat and flush in your cheeks, right? Notice it, name it, repeat it whenever possible. Okay? With this, I want to add that virtually all of us get turned on by things we may not understand. They might seem bizarre or even weird, although I personally think weird is a good thing, but whatever works for you. I just want to validate that's normal and that's okay. And in fact, the fact that we all get turned on by different things is what makes exploring and expressing our sexuality by ourselves and with each other such a rich and rewarding experience. So as you notice, how your body reacts to certain sensations, maybe it's that countertop in your kitchen that's just the right height that when you bump up against it when cutting carrots, it feels kind of good. Okay, notice that. Name it and then repeat it whenever possible. Now, this really goes hand in hand with number 4, which is to recognize shame and judgment and say hello to it. First of all, just say hello to your shame and judgment, notice it, and then go ahead and welcome it to leave. Say goodbye. It is so common when you're starting to notice your own turn-ons to land in a state of judging yourself or feeling shame rather than feeling turned on. And again, this could be a whole other webinar about why we feel shame about sexuality, but it's a pretty universal experience in our culture, it seems. Please, I want to talk to more people who don't have shame around sexuality. So if you can prove me wrong on that, please, 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 please prove me wrong. But it seems pretty universal that shame is common when it comes to sexuality. And I want to state that shame and judgment aren't a problem in and of themselves. They're just a response to stimuli, right? You feel sexual stimuli perhaps, and you feel shame about it. That just comes from messages most of us are taught, whether from our homes or our schools, our houses of worship. So the key isn't then judging yourself or judging yourself. It's really easy to go down a shame spiral and be like, oh my God, I noticed that this thing felt good, but I feel weird that it feels good. And now I think I'm a bad person that it feels good. And now I'm embarrassed that I feel like I'm a bad person and I'm feeling shame for feeling shame. Shame spirals are normal. They are part of the human condition. That's fine. If you find yourself shame spiraling, just notice it and be like, oh, hey, I'm shame spiraling it. Then I suggest like looking at it. Like sometimes I hold my hand in front of my face as if it's holding my shame. And I say, oh, like, what are you doing here? Oh, you think you're protecting me. And P.S., that's usually the reason that shame and judgment pop up. They think they're keeping you safe, but actually they're preventing you from enjoying your life. So just say, thank you, shame, judgment, for trying to keep me safe. I appreciate it. However, you're not giving me what I need right now, so I'm going to invite you to leave. That's not a one-time thing. That's a practice. I do that many times a day sometimes. But learning to like point your arrow in that direction. Know that like, okay, if you're feeling turned on and then you feel bad about being turned on, that's a place you can go with it. Is a huge, huge help if feeling pleasure, abundant pleasure in your life is a priority to you. So again, when you notice it, simply say hello, and then politely ask your shame, your judgment, or other feelings that aren't helping you to peace out because they've hung around long enough. Step 5, and most importantly, is to give yourself some motherfucking credit because you're a rock star. Yeah, you're a beast. Okay. You're a motherfucking beast. Literally, you are an animal. We are mammals. Okay. We just happen to be born in a period of history when animals like us were expected to follow some really specific social rules and norms. Like, I don't know about you, but I was taught very clear messages about it, what it means to be a woman. And those messages did not include having like an abundant, fulfilled sex life, right? So I've played that game. You've played that game. We've played it well. We've found the places that serve us well. And I invite you to keep playing that game in the areas in your life that it serves you. And then choosing to let go of the things that aren't serving you. Choosing to let go of those silly stories we were taught about women either being whores or being virgins, but either way, not having a lot of value in our society. I digress. Yes, I do have feminist ulterior motives. I should probably be clear about that from the beginning. But take the time to invite yourself back to your inner beast and give her what she wants, because you deserve it. You deserve to feel pleasure and satisfaction. As parents, it is hard to do our best job if we feel wrung out, tired, unseen, taken advantage of. And unfortunately, no matter how much we could complain to our partners or our friends about how hard shit gets, no amount of their validation is going to give you the credit you need to feel good. If you want to feel good, you got to give yourself your own credit. You got to see yourself. You got to celebrate yourself. And pleasure is just an easy roll down the hill from there. So again, to review, 5 simple things that you can start to do today One, make the decision to take control of your own pleasure. This is yours, honey. You got to rock it the way you want to, okay? Then two, get curious about pleasure. Oh, like what are some things in my life that could be pleasurable if I just decided to let them be pleasurable? Three, and kind of going off of that, ride those pleasurable waves, notice them, name those turn-ons, and then repeat them whenever it's appropriate and possible. I should say not just possible, but appropriate and possible. Get real friendly with your shame. Get real friendly with your judgment. Know that they're there to help you, and know that they aren't helping you anymore, and you can say goodbye. And then finally, just own your own badassery. Like, you are here right now. You are asking the questions that brought you to this webinar. That's fucking huge. Most people just sit around being like, well, I guess sex isn't a part of my life anymore. And for some people, that's fine. For some people, particularly asexual people or other people who just don't have sex as a huge priority, that's fine. But you wouldn't be on this webinar if that was fine for you. So you're a fucking queen for being here. So I told you a little bit about myself, but I want to tell you a little bit more about why I do this work in specifically, excuse me. I did all this the hard way, finding a life with plentiful pleasure and yummy, yummy, abundant sexual pleasure. I have a history of sexual trauma, experiencing my own at various stages of my life, as well as 8 years of working with rape survivors and domestic violence survivors and victims, as well as stalking survivors and victims. So I just want to be clear that I don't take the subject of sexual trauma lightly. And also, I'm tired of working with people going from victimhood to surviving. I want to work with people going from surviving to fucking thriving. That is my life goal. I've been living with chronic pain for many years. I went and got my master's in social work because the subject of women and sexuality has been fascinating to me for such a long time. Again, I've got over 10 years of experience working with survivors of sexual violence and doing sex education work, including national speaking circuit, and becoming a parent, including one child with special needs, which if you're a mom of a child with special needs, that's a whole different job description, right? It's a big thing. So I've had a lot of troubles with having a fulfilled sex life myself because of a number of these factors. And to rectify that or to improve that, I began a meditation practice 10 years ago, and I've sought care from pretty much every kind of specialist out there. And I've learned a lot on my journey, both personally and professionally. But I really don't think you need to do all of this for you to find sexual fulfillment. There's an easier way, and I can give you a shortcut. I do this work, like I said, because honestly, I'm sick of talking about rape all the time. I'm glad that there are so many more resources out there for survivors than there were even 10 years ago, and certainly more than there were when my mother was my age. So yes, let's keep that going. And I feel like my best use in the movement is to help people get past surviving and really thriving. And that can be surviving any number of things. Life beats us up a little bit. We're all survivors in one way or another. I do this because I love witnessing transformation. There's nothing more gratifying, and especially when we're moving our transformation towards our own self-love and prioritizing ourselves and taking time for ourselves. That can't not help. That can't not help you. It can't not help your family. And I believe it can't not help the world. Also, I'm really good at it. And I'm doing this webinar specifically because I want to meet new clients. So I want to be transparent about that too. So thank you for being here. You are a fucking queen. And I'm proud of you for taken yourself on this journey. If you have any questions, or you want to talk more about how about pleasure could be a good fit for you in your life, you just go ahead and book a curiosity call with me. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you. And either way, I hope you have a pleasure-filled day. You beautiful beast, you. Mwah. Thank you for being here.